Welcome to the world of mystery. Have you ever wondered how a perfectly planned skydiving event can turn into a fatal disaster? Let's wind back the clock to August 27, 1967, a day that would forever be etched in the annals of skydiving history as the Lake Erie skydiving disaster. On this fateful day, a group of 18 skydivers, their hearts brimming with adrenaline and anticipation, prepared to leap from a B-25 Mitchell bomber, an aircraft with a storied past that had seen the heat of battle during World War II. This was not just any group of thrill seekers, but experienced skydivers, most of whom were members of the United States Association. The skydivers were well versed in the art of aerial descent, their bodies trained to maneuver through the winds, their minds attuned to the complexities of the sport. They had jumped countless times before: the rush of the freefall, the serene descent under the parachute, the triumphant landing. These were all as familiar to them as breathing. As they suited up, they would have felt the familiar weight of the parachutes on their backs, the comforting heft of the packs carrying their life-saving equipment. They would have checked and rechecked their gear, ensuring that everything was in place for the jump. There was no room for error. Each piece of equipment was essential, each check a potential. Their destination was Ortner Airport. But as they ascended into the sky inside the B-25, they were unaware of the tragic twist their adventure was about to take. The sky was heavy with clouds, a thick blanket of white that obscured their view, but they were experienced. They trusted their pilot, and they trusted their instincts. As they prepared for the jump, their hearts would have pounded in their chests, the adrenaline coursing through their veins. The anticipation, the thrill, the pure joy of what was to come, it was all part of the experience. And then they jumped. Little did they know, their thrilling adventure was about to turn into a terrifying ordeal. Scene script. Skydiving regulations exist for a reason, but what happens when they're violated? Picture this: 18 seasoned skydivers, most being members of the United States Parachute Association, are aboard a B-25 Mitchell bomber. Their hearts pounding with adrenaline and anticipation. The moment arrives and they leap, plunging into a dense blanket of cloud cover overhead. This was the Lake Erie skydiving disaster, a jump that should never have taken place. Against all rules and regulations, the jump was executed over a thick layer of clouds. The skydivers, expecting to land at Ortner Airport, instead found themselves lost in an opaque world of white fluffiness. The cloud cover was so heavy, it was like diving into cotton candy, but without the sweetness. As they descended, confusion set in. The ground was not where it should be. The familiar landmarks, the runway, the airport buildings, all were missing. Instead, they found themselves surrounded by an endless expanse of blue. The realization dawned on them. They were not over land, they were over water. Imagine the terror that must have gripped them, the sinking feeling in the pit of their stomachs as they understood their predicament. The skydivers were experienced, sure, but nothing could prepare them for this. The thrill of the freefall, the rush of the wind against their faces, the exhilaration of the jump, all of it turned into a nightmare in the blink of an eye. They were hurtling towards Lake Erie, their descent through the clouds having led them astray. The cloud cover, which should have been their guide, their marker, had betrayed them. It had taken them off course, and now they were falling, not towards the safety of the ground, but into the icy, unforgiving waters of the lake. In the blink of an eye, the thrill of freefall turned into a chilling plunge into the unknown. In the face of disaster, every second counts. Yet, in the Lake Erie skydiving disaster, the horror unfolded in slow motion. The pilot, realizing his fatal error, could only watch helplessly as 18 skydivers, his passengers, plunged into the heavy cloud cover, expecting to land at Ortner Airport. Instead, they found themselves hurtling towards the icy waters of Lake Erie. Rescue efforts were launched immediately, but they faced formidable challenges. The weather was far from cooperative, with cold temperatures and strong winds hampering the operation. The vast expanse of Lake Erie, often turbulent, proved to be a dangerous adversary. Every passing moment was a grim reminder of the harsh reality. In the unforgiving waters, the chances of survival were dwindling fast. Amid the chaos, a glimmer of hope shone. Two of the skydivers, utilizing their quick thinking and experience, managed to deploy their parachutes around 3,000 feet above the water. They shed weight, discarding anything that could drag them down into the icy depths. Their actions were driven by sheer survival instinct and the will to live. Their fight for life stood in stark contrast to the tragedy unfolding around them. But even as they battled the elements, their fellow skydivers were not so fortunate. 16 experienced skydivers, members of the United States Parachute Association, met a tragic end that day. Their loss reverberated across the skydiving community, sending shockwaves that would eventually reach the corridors of power. In the icy waters of Lake Erie, 16 lives were tragically lost, leaving a chilling mark on the world of skydiving. The aftermath of the Lake Erie skydiving disaster was a grim reminder of the thin line between adventure and tragedy, a line that was crossed on that fateful day. When disaster strikes, the search for answers begins. This is especially true when a catastrophe like the Lake Erie skydiving disaster unfolds, leaving 16 lives abruptly extinguished and a nation in shock. The National Transportation Safety Board, or NTSB, immediately sprang into action, aiming to unravel the tangled web of responsibility that led to this unthinkable event. The NTSB is a beacon of truth in seemingly murky waters, and it was no different in this case. They conducted not one, not two, but 3 meticulous studies, each aimed at piecing together the puzzle of what went wrong that fateful day. They left no stone unturned, scrutinizing each detail with the precision of a surgeon's scalpel. The findings were as profound as they were disturbing. The pilot, an integral cog in the wheel of the jump, was not spared from the blame. His decision-making came under scrutiny. His failure to realize the mistake until after the jumpers had already plunged into the abyss was a glaring error. It was a lapse that cost 16 experienced skydivers their lives. But the pilot was not the only one held accountable. The air traffic controller, the eyes and ears of the sky, misidentified the plane's position. This miscalculation, a mere blip on a radar screen, led to a catastrophic series of events. The skydivers, too, were not exempt from the blame. They took the leap of faith through heavy cloud cover in direct violation of regulations, a decision that had fatal consequences. Yet, the buck did not stop there. The United States, the very nation that prides itself on its stringent safety measures, was held liable for the controller's error. This was a wake-up call, a stark reminder that even the most developed nations are not immune to such tragedies. In the wake of the tragedy, the United States was held liable for the controller's error, sparking a wave of congressional scrutiny of skydiving regulations. It was a disaster that echoed through the halls of Congress and forced a re-evaluation of the rules of the sky. The Lake Erie skydiving disaster was not just a tragic accident, it was a catalyst for change. Every disaster holds a lesson. The Lake Erie skydiving disaster was no different. This incident, as grim as it was, brought about significant changes to the world of skydiving, etching into our consciousness the importance of strict adherence to safety regulations and the crucial role of clear and precise communication. The tragedy catalyzed a thorough review of skydiving regulations. The National Transportation Safety Board, or NTSB, along with other regulatory bodies, began scrutinizing the existing rules with a renewed focus on safety. The incident highlighted the importance of not just having rules, but also ensuring they are followed diligently. As a result, stricter regulations were put in place, making it mandatory for skydivers to avoid jumping through clouds and for pilots to have precise knowledge of their aircraft's position at all times. Moreover, The incident emphasized the critical role of proper communication in preventing such disasters. The air traffic controller's misidentification of the plane's position was a key factor in the unfortunate event. This led to reforms in the air traffic control system to ensure better communication and accurate tracking of aircraft positions. The skydiving community was shaken to its core. The disaster as a stark reminder of the potential dangers associated with the sport. It underscored the fact that the thrill of skydiving should never overshadow the importance of safety. Skydiving organizations across the globe began conducting more rigorous training sessions, focusing on emergency situations and the vital decision-making skills needed in such scenarios. The Lake Erie skydiving disaster, in its aftermath, brought about a paradigm shift in the approach towards safety in adventurous sports. It served as a painful lesson, prompting significant changes in regulations, communication systems, and training programs. Changes aimed at ensuring such a tragedy would never repeat. The Lake Erie skydiving disaster serves as a stark reminder of the thin line between thrill and tragedy and the importance of safety in every adventure we undertake. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like this video, and share your thoughts in the comments below.